Dinosaurs are awesome. Hiya folks, my name is Blankard, and today we're going to talk a little bit about dinosaurs. Stay tuned and I'll share with you my favorite dinosaur, and it's most assuredly not a Tyrannosaurus rex, not a Velociraptor, not a Stegosaurus, and not a Triceratops. Like lots of kids who grew up in the 90s, I feel that dinosaurs were kind of a part of my childhood. I thought they were awesome ever since I was hatched. I'm a little bit late to the party, I know, and this video doesn't exactly date the time that I found this out, but some years ago, I learned that dinosaurs had feathers, and I happen to be of the opinion that this makes them even cooler than I thought they were already. Not every single dinosaur had feathers, but there's evidence that shows that quite a number of them did. And before we can really get into discussing that, I figured I'd throw a couple of things at you about dinosaurs in general. So first, let me share with you about how many kinds of dinosaurs there are.
While doing research for this video, I discovered that there are more kinds of dinosaurs than I thought possible. I even discovered some new species of dinosaurs I'd never known. Not that I know all of them, right? But apparently there's over 1,000 of them, so I thought I knew a lot of them, but nope, there's still a lot to be found. So you can probably get away with knowing only a certain amount of them. You don't have to know every single subgroup in order to have a good conversation. But there are like 6 major groups of dinosaurs that are pretty good to know about, and I'll tell you about those right now. Sauropodomorphs, those are the 4-legged ones with long necks and long tails. They're herbivorous, and you'll know Brachiosaurus or Apatosaurus or Diplodocus among those ones. There's ornithopods, which contain a group I really like called hadrosaurs, such as the Tragodon, you know, all those duckbills. Then you've got theropods. Those are the ones that are usually the favorites of a lot of people, the most famous. You got the bipedal carnivorous types like Velociraptor, which was actually really small, but it also includes Tyrannosaurus, which is also very big. Not to mention Stegosaurians, which are the ones that look like Stegosaurus. So those are the ones with the vertical plates on their back and a spiky tail. Tiny brains too. And then there's the Ankylosaurians, which are the, Ankylosaurus. Armored plates, spikes, and clubs for tails. The bony clubs for tails that were pretty badass. And speaking of tanks, you got the Ceratopsians, which, you know, most people like, or at least know about the Triceratops. And then there's the lesser-known Protoceratops and Styracosaurus. All of these things in one category. So there you have it, 6 major groups of dinosaurs. Just feel like mentioning that I am an enthusiast here. I'm not an official paleontologist or anything. So that means I might have a different way of pronouncing some of these names and categories and stuff, different from either the way the officials really say it, or maybe the way you grew up saying it. For instance, I grew up with Stegosaurus and Diplodocus as opposed to Stegosaurus or Diplodocus, okay? So maybe I say things differently, but if I say something wrong, please feel free to leave a comment below and let me know how I can say it better next time, because I want to learn. There are also a number of prehistoric creatures that if you squint in the sun, I guess they kind of look like dinosaurs too, but they're technically not. You know, the aquatic types such as ichthyosaurs and mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. Pterosaurs are another example of a creature that a lot of people might think is a dinosaur. You might have heard names like Pterodon or pterodactyl, but actually they're just flying reptiles. They're not actually dinosaurs. And pelycosaurs, or pelycosaurs, however you want to say that one. It's a new word for me. It includes a creature called a Dimetrodon. You might know them. But they're not dinosaurs. They're actually just mammal-like reptiles. And honestly, that whole category deserves a massive video of its own. I'm not sure if I'm qualified to make that. Then again, I'm not sure if I'm qualified to make this video either. But I tell you one thing, mammal-like reptiles are super weird, and Dimetrodons are super scary. Even just the entire process of studying fossils is fascinating, because in order to find a fossil, it requires a very specific set of circumstances, like a mudslide or a landslide or something that just covers up the bones or the entire body and leaves it preserved and safe from any kind of scavengers or other kinds of elements that would normally weather away the pieces, until hundreds of millions of years later, it's preserved into a fossil available for us to study. A lot like a fallen cliffside like where I'm standing right now. And which dinosaur is my favorite? Well, thanks for asking. It is the Parasaurolophus. It belongs to a subgroup of hadrosaurs, which are one of the ornithropods. And this is my favorite dinosaur because I'm kind of an audiophile. Not really like by the clinical definition. I've actually looked into it, and real audiophiles might disagree with my audiophileness. But the point is that I really love sound. I've always been interested in the way things sound, collecting sounds, changing the sound effects on my phone and my computer, and music is a really important part of my life, you know. Even though I'm not a musician, I'm just a appreciator, you know. But the Parasaurolophus is a very peculiar creature, and supposedly it made a really, really weird sound. So not only does it look really unusual compared to a whole lot of other dinosaurs, even other hadrosaurs, but it is quite possible that it made a long, lowing, honking sound. That I've heard in a couple of movies, you know, like remade by a couple of movies. Of course, Jurassic Park is the big one there, briefly. But there's also that Disney one, Dinosaur. There's a moment when the baby Parasaurolophus is running around, and you hear it honk, and it sounds a lot like a goose. To imagine the sound that a Parasaurolophus must have bellowed, echoing throughout its primordial home, the jungle or the swamplands or whatever, must have been a sound that was just so surreal. And it's, you know, more than a T-Rex, actually, especially more than a T-Rex or the carnivorous types, more than a Brachiosaurus, more than a Stegosaurus or a Triceratops or any of these other really like flagship dinosaurs that are usually the favorites of a lot of people. I would love to not only see a Parasaurolophus, but hear one. That's what I would be really into. And I've been especially re-enamored by the idea of how a Parasaurolophus is my favorite dinosaur ever since I discovered this artwork, which is a rendition of what a Parasaurolophus might look like if it were covered in feathers, with the theme of a swan, which got me thinking, like, maybe they quacked like a duck, maybe they honked like a goose. But if they were covered in feathers, the way this art depicts, I consider it one of the most beautiful creatures to have ever lived.
So here's the thing. Paleontologists have known that many dinosaurs had feathers for a long time now, long before some of these awesome and popular movies were even made. There's at least a nod to this in the first Jurassic Park movie when Dr. Grant is educating a small child about how you have to think of a velociraptor as kind of a big turkey. Right? You remember that scene?
You get your first look at this 6-foot turkey. He slashes at you here or here.
But there are other videos that explain the actual science behind a lot of these things much more thoroughly than I can. I highly recommend Trey the Explainer. There's a link in the description below. He's more popular than me and smarter than me, and he definitely doesn't need my help in terms of sharing it with people and whatnot. I rather admire his work. But the point is that he does a really good job of explaining a lot of dinosaur things, including but not limited to the dinosaurs having feathers thing, and also the whole, oh yeah, what if the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, you know, they have their DNA meshed with a frog, wouldn't that result in sort of like a weird half dinosaur, half amphibian that would have them with no feathers or something? He actually does a much better job of explaining this than I do, so I really recommend you check him out. When people first hear about dinosaurs having feathers, often you hear people kind of reject the idea, you know, they'll say like, oh, what the heck, my childhood is ruined, or geez, they're so much less scary when they are covered in feathers, they look like fuzzy birds or something. That's actually what they are. Here's the thing about that. You mean to tell me that if you saw one of these things in the forest, maybe in the dark of night, or maybe as a silhouette in the forest when you're walking along, that you would be nonplussed? If you're gonna seriously tell me that a 5-foot chicken is not a scary thing, you need to hang around chickens more. Here's some footage of them up in the family farm over in central Vietnam, where my in-laws live. So Blankard, why are you making this video? What's the point, right? You're not a scientist, you're not a paleontologist. What's the point of adding your voice to this conversation? Basically, I wanted to express this because occasionally I encounter a person who still carries some misconceptions about dinosaurs, such as whether or not they have feathers. This is interesting to me because these are animals that, as the slogan goes, once ruled the earth. So as an animal enthusiast, I just wanted to add my voice into the mix because these are really, really interesting creatures. And like I said before, I'm of the opinion that learning that they had feathers makes them even cooler. If you still need some convincing as to whether or not they were scary or cool with feathers, take a look at this slideshow of artwork that I found. Tell me what you think. Seriously, isn't it fascinating that our planet can produce such monstrous, diverse, interesting creatures? Isn't it amazing how we as a race of creatures have also developed to a point where we are able to peer back in history looking through the fossil record to find evidence of these animals that existed so long ago that you really would not have been able to know they existed without the aid of science? I'm also of the opinion that life in general is just a lot more interesting than a lot of us think it is. So if there's at least one thing I would like any of you guys to get out of this video, which took me months and months longer than necessary to actually produce this thing, it's this. No matter what it is that you're really into, you can teach yourself as much as you want about it. You have tools at your disposal, like this platform here. That's magical. That's cool, alright? So find out everything you can about whatever it is you're into and share it with the world. Even if the thing that you find really interesting is just a piece of artwork about your favorite dinosaur depicted in a way that is completely different than the way you grew up thinking about it and deciding to just build an entire video about it. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. I just really want to express my gratitude for you taking the time out of your day to watch my humble amateur videos here. And if you could be bothered to hit the like button or leave a comment, it would really mean a lot because I put a lot of effort into making these videos and it takes a lot of my time and I don't get paid for it, at least not yet. I guess that's all for now, and I don't know how to do outros, so take care of yourself and have a good day.